Hi, I'm Sarah Kruger, and I'm running for State Senate. I bring a diverse and unique skill set to this position, which I think will be very helpful in addressing the challenging situations we're currently facing. I work as a marketing consultant, primarily with medical professionals. I also have a background in government studies with a Master of Research in Political Science from Pompeu Fabra University in Spain. I taught government studies with a focus on democracy and electoral politics at the Barcelona Institute for International Studies. I'm originally from Winona, where I grew up and live, and this community is very near and dear to me. Why is it important for college students to vote? It's important for everyone to vote, but it's especially true for young people to make sure your voices are being heard. Who you elect today impacts your life tomorrow. Your generation is inheriting this world, the good and the bad. One of the reasons I decided to run for office is that if you want to see change, you need to find a way to be a part of the solution. You might think one vote doesn't matter, but it does. It's one of the most powerful tools you have to be a part of large-scale change. We must provide young people with the opportunities and resources they need to improve our world. I believe that public education is the most important investment we can make in society, and because of this, I'm extremely honored to have received Education Minnesota's endorsement. Winona State University greatly enriches Southeast Minnesota and the Winona community. I feel very strongly that more funding needs to be allocated to public higher education. The state has failed to keep its promise to fund 2/3 of the cost of higher ed. Bonding has provided great resources for capital projects, but it doesn't address the debt load that students take on for tuition and expenses. Getting a degree should not result in an unreasonable amount of debt that becomes a burden for young people to be able to move forward. By properly investing in higher education at the state level, we're investing in every single sector of our economy, and I think that's an investment worth making. Going back to why it's critical to have your voice heard at the polls. Protecting our environment is a perfect example of why your vote matters, and your generation will be the powerhouse in moving forward legislation that helps to mitigate climate change. There are several areas that are important to work on at the state level. Studies have shown that we need to cut our energy-related carbon dioxide emissions in half by 2030, half them again by 2040, and reach net zero emission levels by 2050 in order to prevent the worst effects of climate change. To achieve this, our state must promote and fund industrial energy diversification into low-carbon technologies such as wind, solar, and geothermal. Plus, a green economy creates jobs and leads to expansion of a variety of employment opportunities in Southeast Minnesota. The modernization of our infrastructure is key to generating employment. To achieve this growth, we need to ensure that affordable training and educational opportunities are a supported component of job creation in the renewable energy sector. Did you know that transportation currently makes up the largest portion of Minnesota's greenhouse gas emissions? Our state passed legislation in 2007 calling for an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. However, at our current emissions rate, we will not meet our target. Although there has been a significant decrease in carbon emissions in the electric power sector by replacing coal plants with renewable energy sources, transportation-related emissions remain problematic. We can transition the transportation sector away from fossil fuels by incentivizing the use of electric vehicles and the capacity to charge them with renewable energy. There are many other solutions that need to be implemented, and I believe your generation is going to help make the changes we need to save our planet. As a Spanish speaker, I've worked as an interpreter and a volunteer at various immigrant service NGOs around the world. I think it's important to point out that we are a nation of immigrants. My ancestors immigrated to this country right before World War I, and our economy, both locally and nationally, has always relied on the hard work of immigrants. When addressing sustained economic growth, it's evident that immigration has been and will continue to be a vital component of our workforce that employers need to be successful in Minnesota. We have an aging population, and immigrants are a very important source of new workers. For example, in 2016, foreign-born workers accounted for 10% of the total available labor force in Minnesota, and that was up from 7.5% a decade earlier. And in Southeast Minnesota in particular, our farm economy is very reliant on the work of immigrants. Also, our state university system is an excellent example of our global interdependence and the enrichment of this creates in our communities. This has been a very difficult year in many regards. The tragic deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and many others have brought the need for racial justice and social equity to the forefront of our national conversation. Black Lives Matter is not a radical statement. A person's life mattering should be a concern to us all. Working towards social equity and racial justice is making sure that everyone feels safe in our communities, regardless of the color of your skin, your religion, or your sexual orientation. Recognizing privilege and the various biases we have is something that each of us needs to be aware of and address. As a senator, I will use my platform to highlight the voices of people who deserve to have input on issues that directly impact their lives. When all voices are being heard at the table, including our hardworking local members of law enforcement, as well as our fellow community members of color, we create a safer community for everyone. I will work to bring people together on difficult issues. These are not easy conversations to have, but I know we're capable of listening to each other and coming up with meaningful solutions. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the candidates on your ballot, and remember, vote because you matter and your voice deserves to be heard.